Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper. Today I'll be reviewing Persona 5 Tactica, which was released on the 17th of November of this year. Now, the main plot of this game is that the Phantom Thieves have been transported to this other world, which is known as a kingdom, and it's up to them to basically not only figure out what's happening, but also fight the various rulers of the different kingdoms. And along the way, they meet two new characters, one called Arena and one called Toshiro. I believe that's the other guy's name. Now, Arena is a person who's lived in the kingdom basically all her life, and Toshiro is this politician man from the real world, and with their help, the Phantom Thieves basically have to figure out what's going on, who Toshiro might be, because there are some hints and some clues to figure out more about Toshiro throughout the course of the game, and with Rina, she's basically someone who's lived in the kingdoms, as I said before, her whole life, and I think she's a really interesting character, mainly because she leads this thing called the Rebellion, and all of the people are basically these guys wearing different forms or different outfits and stuff like that. So, for instance, in the first kingdom you come across, which is the first kingdom you enter in, all of the residents and the enemies are in this sort of French Revolution type of outfit, and then in the second kingdom, you see all of the residents in Japanese yukata, I think. I could be 100% wrong, but it's like we've seen like something like Demon Slayer. That's what a lot of the people in the Second Kingdom kind of look like, with the outfits and stuff like that. So yeah, this game is kind of refreshing a bit, because it's still a continuation of Persona 5, because this takes place around about winter time, about Christmas time. So about, I think, in universe time, about a few months or so before you leave, and yeah, that's quite cool. So it's like an added bit of story onto the original Persona 5 or Royal, depending on which version you've played, and yeah, this feels very different from the other Persona games, because it does have still a lot of the other Persona elements. Like, you've got your personas, you can use specific weaknesses, you can get a knockdown, all attack. It's got a lot of the things that makes a Persona game, and yeah, with this game it feels very different, because it's one massive square or one massive small arena type thing, but you're only limited to a few characters at a time, and you have to like strategically put specific characters on specific parts of the board and try and get from one place to the next and stuff like that. And yeah, it feels very different. It's kind of like how Strikers feels different, but it still has some of the elements of Persona 5. Because in Strikers, it was basically like Hyrule Warriors or any of the Dynasty Warriors games, where it's basically kind of hack and slash. You do your super move, that kind of thing, but it was in the universe of Persona, and it's very, very different in Tactica, where it's like you got all these characters with their moves and stuff like that, and yeah, it feels very interesting and very different. And now it's time for some gameplay. So when it comes to Persona 5 Tactica, it's very different from the other Persona related games when it comes to how to like play when it comes to the game as a whole, the gameplay and how it's structured, that kind of thing. There are some similar elements, like the way you use some of your personas, the weaknesses. There's kind of the same thing in all Persona games, even games like this. And yeah, and within this game in particular, there are various things you can do because the hideout will be your main hub of operations. So there's prep, the prep menu, so that's basically where you can like organize your parties, get some equipment, do skills, personas, sync quests, that sort of thing. And skills, they are like these new things in the game. I think they kind of remind me of those special skills you could do in Strikers, but this is more of a skill-based tree, whereas within Tactica Strikers, it was more just you have to do a specific move over and over again until you unlocked it. Now, when it comes to the personas themselves, you can actually have your members have an additional persona equipped, which I think is really interesting because it kind of reminds me of the Persona Q games, because I've looked about here and there and found out that in those games you can equip more than one persona on your party members, even if they're not the main character, because the main characters in all the Persona games have the ability, well from Persona 3 onwards, I'm not 100% sure about Persona 1 or 2, but the main characters from Persona 3 onwards all have the wild card, which means they can use multiple personas. So for this game, it's interesting. I think it's quite nice. I think it's quite cool. The quests are basically these things are basically these small missions in the game where you can like do certain things, and they basically just tell you how to do like specific things. Like if we do the current quest, so Operation Boom, so that you're given specific requirements. So like, and you'll be given specific characters to do this question. So for this one, it's Arena, and Morgana. Would you think it's quite nice? And let me just skip this. So you'll be given about like specific things you'll be doing in the quests, and yeah, the loading screens, they do feel a bit long. I think it's just I don't know. I think it's just they feel a bit slow. I think it's just a me thing, and another thing that's very different from the games, well, when you compare this to like the other games like Strikers, the original Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal, and even the other Persona games, is that the battlefield is different. This is kind of like any of the Fire Emblem games or the Mario and Rabbids games that I've seen bits and pieces about over the last 2 or 3 years or so. I'm not 100% sure when the first one was released, but I did know the second game was released sometime earlier this year or last year. I'm not 100% sure. But before you do the battle, you can choose your squad, but in a quest, particular members will be locked. So, and each member has different effects like SP, HP, melee, gun damage, that kind of thing. So that's quite cool. And you can also, if you want to, go to the Velvet Room for War Battle. And like with every other version of the Velvet Room, each version is different, and this is the same with the other Velvet Rooms, where this one is different, but it's very different to the one we've seen in Strikers and the original Persona 5 and Royal, because with those Velvet Rooms was a prison, but this was like this is more of a sort of steampunk furnace type of thing.
Do you wish to perform a fusion?
This works like pretty much like the other Velvet Rooms.
Then, make your decision. Which persona will you choose?
So, yeah, and you have to like collect ones you can only fuse ones at specific levels. So for example, let's get this one. So for the personas, they can only have 2 skills. The skill that they are given, and another skill that you want to give to that specific persona. So for Matador, I could be saying it wrong. He for this one, he's got Speed Master, so that skill you can make it go faster, I think, or something like that. I think in the other Persona games. And then you could choose any of the moves that you've been given. So I can either have a skill that can heal up a particular target, or a particular, an ally of, and fully recover their HP, or to have a fire skill. So let's say for this, let's have a fire skill.
Persona, one moment, please.
And this is how the personas are sort of fused together in the game. So that's how personas are fused, and I think it's really cool because it's unique. Because like each Railroad Room has their own unique ways. With Persona 3 and 4, you've got those cards that Igor uses. In Persona 4, in Persona 5, you've got the guillotines, as well as in Royal, and in Strikers, you've got the Iron Maidens. So that's quite cool. And then you'll be given more personas. So let's actually go into.
What would you like to do until next time?
Let's actually go into the battle, so you can see how it works out. So you'll be shown different moves, a lot of different moves. The amount of enemies that can be seen on the map.
Let's do this.
So each character, so as you can see, there's this border around some of the characters.
Here I go.
So that basically shows how far they can go and what they can do. So for Haru, she can either use her gun or summon her persona. Now her persona, well, depending on what you choose, like her gun or her persona or her gun will, depending on which attack, will have a variety of range of effects. So this particular effect can only hit one enemy. If we do on this, it can both hit the enemy and the barrel at the same time. So, okay, so let's say just hit the barrel.
Leave it to me.
And once a particular enemy is done, well, once a particular character has done their stuff, it goes to the next character. And you can also do a sort of get 'em, which is basically a kind of a knockdown. If you play the other Persona games, you can do get 'ems and stuff like that, and do knockdowns. And also, which is something new that the Persona series, well, to this game in particular, is a triple threat. Now, triple threat is basically a super duper move. Which basically, if your characters are in this sort of triangle thing, you'll do it was kind of like an all-out attack sort of thing, which is quite cool. I think it's quite cool. And you can switch between not characters. Well, you can switch between characters, but you can switch between enemies. Oh, and also the battlefield can be adjacent to you as well as it can be to your allies, because they can use the environment around you, and also there'll be some elements that might be out of your control, like battles here, because of the arrangement effects that can happen. It's just you have to really think about what to do, do battles and stuff. So yeah, so I would suggest always think ahead how to fight, and yeah, and I think it's quite cool, and it's just really cool, and it's very different from like the other Persona games. So yeah, that's been it for the gameplay. Now it's time to go back to the review. So, like I said in my gameplay section, the gameplay kind of feels like Fire Emblem and the Mario and Rabbids games, and yeah, I think I can kind of stand by that, because with Tactica, the gameplay feels so different, like in Strikers, how that feels different, but it just feels fun. It feels like very different, as something a Persona game could do if it wasn't an RPG type of thing, because with Tactica, because it feels different. It feels refreshing. It feels different, but it still has a lot of the same core elements that a Persona game has, and yeah, and when it comes to Persona 5 as a whole, I'm guessing that this is probably the last, one of the last, if not the last, Persona 5 related piece of media, because over the last few years we have seen a whole lot of Persona 5 related stuff, because there was Persona 5. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be too harsh on that, because it was the first it was the latest game to come out at the time of the Persona games. But there was Royal, there was Strikers, Tactica, there was Dancing in Starlight, there was the anime, there's the manga as well. So that's about six different pieces of media that's related to Persona 5. So I feel like with Tactica, it might be the last one, or in that time that comes into the Persona 5 related piece of media. So, but if not, then I'll leave my words. But yeah, and if this is the last Persona 5 related game, I'm happy. I'm happy for this to be the last one, and happy to see if we see something related to Persona 6 or something. But overall, I would say that Persona 5 Tactica is an awesome. It's an awesome game. It's if as I said before, it feels different. It feels colourful. It feels like and I do like how we get to see these characters in like chibi forms, like these small, almost cartoony sort of styles. Because with Tactica, it kind of feels like a Saturday morning cartoon a bit, because it feels different, but it feels the same. When you compare it to Persona 5 or Royal or Strikers or whatever, where it's different, but it feels the same. It still has that Persona 5, elements to it. So it's a really, really fun game. So yeah. So that's been my review for Persona 5 Tactica. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.